Hello. Hi. Okay. I am so sorry to everybody who was here before me. I had this all planned out. I had this all started up. I had like a whole cute intro scene. And then for some reason it didn't want to stream to YouTube. So I have no idea what's happening. I'm used to going live on stream with a thing called Restream where you can go live on Twitch and YouTube. But, sometimes it just doesn't go the way that you're hoping it'll go. So hopefully you guys can see everything. I'll let people come on in and get settled as I need to come on in and get settled. Um, Also, it's not letting me see my chat. This is great. First stream, it's already going great. I'll be in chat in here. Okay, so my plan for today is my first of all, I just want to thank you guys. Uh my videos lately have been going crazy and I did not expect such a quick like positive hi em how are you I did not expect such a quick positive like uh welcoming, right? So I've actually been doing YouTube for quite a very long time, and I've dabbled in different things here and there, and I've had two kids and I've got married and I've moved and there's a lot of things that happened and I couldn't really put content creation to the front. But now I'm in a place where I could finally do that. And I'm really enjoying the content that I'm making. And I'm really enjoying the fact that you guys are loving the content. So that it's making me really happy. So today my JonBenét video just really went wild. So my goal is to talk about the JonBenét video in the comments with you guys, but also go through the comments that were left on the video. I cannot sit and answer every single comment. But some people had some really great points, and some people it's hard because I feel like when you get into text, um, if you disagree with somebody, like sometimes it doesn't always convey, the message the way that you want it to because it's through text. So, I would prefer to take some of these comments and react to them in a video form, because I think as I may not react to them the way that you would think, but like even though I maybe just what am I trying to say? I'm really nervous today. I don't know why. Well, I'm just nervous because this is our first live. So I just want to make sure that I'm reacting to the comments in a respectful way. And sometimes when you're having a disagreement in comments, it's not always perceived that way. So, with that being said, I need to know what you're drinking. I have a latte macchiato right here that I've made for myself. Okay. Oh, Botrix has joined. That's great. Which means that I should be able to see all of my chats in my OBS, and that would be amazing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is switch over the screens real quick, and I'm going to put on a little music, and you guys are going to be able to see all the comments, and then this is going to be great. Let's do a little background music. Here we go. Okay, so the first comment comes from Black Tea and Pancakes. Ooh, that sounds nice. So JC Groove, it says, okay, what I never heard about the detail about the ID bracelet before. So that I actually got from the autopsy report. That was one of the things that they found with her. She was also wearing a yellow gold band. It had the date 12/25/96 on it. If that's true, then that's significant to me. Who gave her that bracelet? So I don't know the answer of that. However, one of the things that's very interesting to me about that fact is that if you look on her tombstone, it's actually also 12/25/96 instead of 12/26, which brings up an interesting point that we'll touch on later in the comments. But she supposedly passed away on the 26th of December because it would have been after midnight. So the autopsy report would suggest, because they don't know a real time of death, right? So the autopsy report would suggest that she passed away at 1 a.m., which would make it the 26th of December. So it was very interesting to me that, and there's a lot of theories around that, which I also find very interesting. Patsy's smile is so fake. I don't, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know these people personally, so I can't judge on that. Oh, there's a comment on my OJ video. OJ can rest easy now. The killer is dead. So let's go to, we're going to go to the Ramsey videos actually here. The Ramsey comments, even the ones I have responded. And let's see. So do you think the case will ever be solved? No. Through written, verbally, you got this. And I'm drinking. Hi, Jumping Fox. Thank you. You know what? It's funny because I used to go live on Twitch all the time. And I'm just so used to being in like a silly, goofy mood. And I don't know why. I'm just like super nervous over here. I think maybe because we're talking about like more serious topics. But yeah, hello from Toronto. I subscribed to your channel a few weeks ago and I'm really enjoying your videos. Thank you. I'm also the mother of a child in the spectrum, a true crime and makeup enthusiast. Well, hello, Pina. Yeah, I love makeup. I love my son who's on the spectrum. My son is going to be 8 years old. So that's really exciting. He's doing really well. He's emerging verbal. I could talk about him all day. If you ever just want to talk about that, that would be cool. But yeah, welcome in. I'm really glad that you're enjoying the channel too. It's funny because when I started this, I was like, listen, I'm a talker. I'm going to make content that's really long and we're going to see what happens. And people are actually really enjoying the long form content. So I'm really glad that you guys are here and you're so receptive to it. And also the conversations, like just not only between me and the community, but like just going back and forth in the comments, I think is just really valuable too. My question for you is, what is the earliest memory you have of a crime that really resonated with you? For me, it was a disappearance of Nicole Morin. Ooh, I don't even know who that is. I'm going to write that down. My first crime. Well, I have to tell you. Okay, so I was 11 when JonBenét happened. So, before that, I mean, I knew, see, here's a problem. Like, I knew about different things. Cause okay, so I was an only child until I was 16. So my parents like did not watch anything different because I was around it. So I watched a lot of like news and adult stuff. So I remember, hearing about like my parents discuss like Dahmer and John Wayne Gacy and different things like that. But my first one that resonated with me, I don't know. See, and the reason that I'm also doing cases that were in the 90s is because those ones have kind of stuck with me. So like the Menendez brothers, that one really stuck with me. And like when I was, like alive for all of that and like during that, I remember like that and OJ, like I got my information about those crimes from SNL, like them doing all the skits and stuff on there. So that's why I made the OJ video. Like I had no idea why that was so racially impactful. I also had no idea why there was such a big conversation around the Menendez brothers either. So I would say like all the big 90s cases. And also like I grew up with my great grandmother, and my great grandmother used to love a tabloid. Oh, girl, she loved National Enquirer, The Sun, like she had them all. So I would just like look through stuff that I had no business looking at all. But when I go through the JonBenét case, the first question that I had asked and the pinned comment that I had put was, do you think the case will ever be solved? And, the feelings are mixed. Some people do think that it'll be solved because of the DNA. Here's one. No, because he sued people for solving it. You wrote about OJ. How old were you? Wrote about OJ in my diary. Oh my God. That sounds bad. When Linda Arndt was asked if she thinks the killer will get away with the murder, she did say yes. I don't think it'll get solved, but I hope I'm wrong. Not a chance this gets solved. If I was a betting man, it's probably her brother. I remember they announced the verdict over the school. Yes. So actually, it's funny that you say that because, yes. Are we the same age? No, I was in. So when OJ happened, I was 10, right? That was 95, 94. I was about 9 or 10 years old, but they did the same thing at my school. They brought it over the intercom and you could hear some people, very upset, and you could hear some people that were very, very happy. And I'm like in my brain, I'm like, why are people happy he got away with murder? Like, I really did not understand any of it. So it was a very complicated case. And I think he was used as, I think he was used as a pawn. I hope you have a beautiful life. Oh my God. Colin, thank you. Oh, 43. Okay, so I'll be 40 this upcoming year. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, we're not that far apart, but I really had no idea, right? Like, in my brain, OJ was a murderer, and because I didn't understand the judicial system and I had no idea like how it worked, or I just thought like if you murdered somebody, you went to jail. Like, I was 10. Hi, Mr. Pike. I've been waiting to see your face all day, Mr. Pike. I love you so much. I had no idea why, like, it went way deeper. So actually okay, so here's what happened. I wrote my OJ script into 2 scripts. I did why it was such a cultural phenomenon, and then I did the actual murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. And as I was going to release the second part of the first part that I had put out, the JonBenét Ramsey documentary dropped, and I was like, I got to do that first because I wanted the time, which thank God, because this video blew up. So good timing on my part, but I actually do have a second part of that video coming out. But it was just such a wild thing. So anyways, the replies on this are, do you think the case will ever be solved? It's mixed. Well, I feel like actually most of it is, no, this is maybe if you start with an open mind, no joke, not being funny. Columbo could have Columbo. What a throwback. Columbo could have solved this with small details that don't make sense or are out of place. Well, and so here's part of the problem with that, right? Like, I believe that the police department at the time fumbled this so bad that even circumstantial evidence, like, it wouldn't have worked out. I talk about that in the video. Scott Peterson was convicted on circumstantial evidence alone, right? We talked about that case. There was no DNA, there was no cause of death, and there was no crime scene. And they were still able to convict him with the evidence that they were able to find. And that's the thing that they weren't able to do in this case, was be able to provide circumstantial evidence that was, enough to get them charged or convicted. Very early in the case, Patsy said she looked in JonBenét's bedroom and tore the door open to Burke's room. Why? Did she expect to find JonBenét sleeping in Burke's bed, or did she expect to find something else? As a mother, I think you're gonna, and your daughter's missing, I think you're gonna open every door. I think that you're just gonna fling open every door in every room to try to find your baby. Are you talking to me? Another retelling of history and the same conclusion as other bloggers. Oh, here. Well, what new did you say? Another retelling of history and the same conclusions as the other bloggers. A waste of time. Thank you. I appreciate it. I always love hateful comments. They make me laugh. Only because, like, I've never left like a hateful comment on somebody's video because I'm like, just keep scrolling past. So when people leave it, it makes me giggle. Oh, so here we go. Hope to see you. You sound fair and great. This is about discussing the case live this morning. Uh, Oh, the Lore Lodge. What is that? Just saw a couple videos from the Lore Lodge about this case. Maybe check them out before you live stream. Well, I did not do that, but I will write that down and go check it out before. So somebody in the comments actually asked me to go into and do a video on only the theories, which I would really like to touch on. I think that would be really great. And I didn't want to put that into the initial video, right? Like I wanted this video to really be factual based. What did I find, right? And what did I find for a counterpoint? So my thing was I wanted to make sure, and these videos are already long enough, right? And they're very detailed. And I wanted to make sure that I put as much factual evidence into one case. And then we can do others, right? Like we can do theories, we could do you know, whatever, anything else. Like I don't know, Reddit scares me, so I don't know if I would ever find myself down a Reddit rabbit hole, but I didn't want to bog this video down with facts and then theories. I find that it gets too confusing. And also I didn't want to lend my voice to the theories in a factual video like they were facts. So if I put the theories in a theory video and it's like, this is only theories, this is only what I've read on the internet, then I think that it gives it a better separation. Protected satanic ritual. You know, I have to say that is something that comes up a lot. There's a lot about different, and I have to be very careful about what I say on YouTube so I don't get in trouble. But there's a lot of different things about like different networks and I don't know. So the thing is, when you say something like that, my question to you is, what proof do you have that happened, right? When it comes to the theories of the other suspects were in the crime, we have the proof of the fact that they admitted it. They admitted to doing this, which is wild to me. I've said that in my video. Like, I don't understand why somebody would cop to a crime that they didn't commit. That's got to be, you know, some sort of. I'm not even going to speculate on that. That's different than something I would do. But yeah, if that's your theory, right? Like the rituals. Oh, bye, Bye. I was on the other site, but it must not be working for you. You know what, Mr. Pike? I tried to go on Restream and I just gave up. I wanted to make sure that I went on YouTube first. I'll try to figure it out later. Bye, actually, and I saw your comment about the Lore Lodge. I am going to go and check them out. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, and Mr. Pike, never apologize for being late. Never, ever, ever. So I just want to make sure that like when people put up something like that, like, oh, it's this, that's fine. Everybody can have their theory and everybody can talk about their conspiracy theories. I just want a why. Like, if you could tell me why, that would be great. Like, what proof, what like evidential facts do you have to support that theory? What amazes me is that you have the Ramseys in their home from the time they arrived the night before until 6 a.m. the next morning. No sign of forced entry or break-in, no sign of any intruder. It's freezing outside and a ridiculous ransom note. So that's the thing, right? Like some people will say they don't have any sign of an intruder, but some people like Detective Lou Smith will tell you that the basement window was open, the suitcase was in front of the window, there's debris, the grate was pulled up, and the foliage from the plants was put under it. So, you know, you can find things on both sides, and you do have evidence pointing to both of those things. If you have, you know, so I don't know. I don't think you have enough. Well, I don't know. I think that there's enough evidence to prove, like, to point to an intruder. I do. There's also enough evidence to not, and that's what makes this case so tricky. Let's see. Then a few hours later, John Ramsey goes directly to where she's at and finds his daughter. Follow that, no call from the kidnappers, and the entire kidnapping narrative is over. Then the Ramseys start acting very aloof and giving contradictory statements and inconsistent stories. So when we were talking about this, somebody had brought this up in the premiere of my video, which I found very interesting. And they were like, you know, if you keep contradicting the stories, then it's hard to like peg down what it is. Or maybe somebody had said it in the comments, but they were like, it's all a part of confusion. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good point. Maybe it was M, but we were talking about like, you know, I had said I'm not a good liar at all because I would never be able to remember my original story. Just tell the truth and whatever. But not to mention that the ransom note was written in the house. How do you not arrest the Ramseys? It's circumstantial, but there are no other circumstances. They should have been arrested for murder. There was a dead child and no explanation, no intruder, no sign of intruder, nothing. They were rich and they paid their way out of it somehow. There was no other explanation. The DA saying that there were no grounds to indict them as a joke, and they were the only ones in the house when she was killed, and they should have been arrested. It's hard to prove as the system is protecting these families. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, right? Like, so anybody can have a theory. But if you can't prove the theory, then nothing happens to these people. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. And you're not the only one saying that. Like, that's not the only... I've seen those theories all over the place. And actually, it's interesting because if you look into the history of the whites, they have some pretty controversial stuff with them as well. So the thing about the DA, right? The DA saying that there was no grounds to indict them is a joke. I had mentioned this in my video. And when the evidence was presented to the grand jury did in fact say that you could indict the Ramseys. However, they were only going to be able to be indicted on child abuse. And they were indicted on, what was it? It was child abuse and putting their child in a dangerous situation resulting in death. But the problem with that is they came back with the lowest standard of indictment, which is probable cause. So I watched this great video on Mile Higher. It's the Mile Higher podcast. And they had, I forgot what his name is, but they had a gentleman on there that was actually a part of this investigation. And he had said, because he's an ex-DA. So he had said, as a DA, you have a code of ethics. And if you cannot charge somebody, right, without a reasonable, beyond a reasonable doubt, if you cannot get that conviction, you really can't go through and charge them with a crime. Like, you have to be able to prove it. And also, too, somebody had said in the comments, which was a really great point, as a DA, you also have to make sure that you, like, if you're going to do it, you get it right the first time, because it's not like you can just keep going back and be like, oh, sorry, messed up last time. Let's just try to indict these guys and charge them again. So I don't agree with that, because he's saying that there was no grounds to indict them. He had grounds to indict them. The problem is they didn't have enough evidence they had probable cause, and you can't bring charges against somebody with probable cause. It's not enough. Somebody says there was evidence of an intruder, and there was no evidence the Ramseys were involved despite the massive police effort to blame them. Well, I do have to say, the one thing that sticks out to me is Patsy's handwriting, right? Like, that's going to be the biggest point of contention, is that handwriting. And for me, that's kind of hard, because for a complete stranger to walk into a home and have even remotely similar handwriting as somebody who lives in that house, questionable. The taser marks, is there an SRA, are used to stop memories forming the victim along with drugs and garrote to bring them out of consciousness. So, bringing up the taser, it's funny because that was Detective Lou Smith who brought up the taser marks. And I believe it was an air taser stun gun is what he thought it was. And I had read a report that air taser, like the people who owned air taser actually came out and they're like, our air tasers are, well, they said they're not supposed to like render people unconscious, but we're also talking about a 6-year-old child. So I didn't, yeah, they didn't clarify on that. But she didn't have, so the thing about the drugs though is she didn't have anything else in her system, right? I mean, I believe in an autopsy, they do perform a toxicology report. Let's see. Oh, clue me in because based on my understanding, no, there wasn't. Please include supporting factual links. Meanwhile, explain that ridiculous note. No kidnappers wrote that. Yeah, that's a hard one. I think that this case would be so wildly different if that one piece was gone, right? If there was absolutely no ransom note, I think this would have gone a completely different way. There was zero evidence of intruder. In fact, that detail was a major problem. They had nothing to show that there was any forced entry, nothing to show anyone but the Ramseys were in that house. It is obvious that the note was written in the house with the paper and the pen from the house. And then they asked for $118,000. Yes, which is another weird turn of events. What kind of foreign faction group only asks for $118,000 when his company is worth millions? The whole thing is so ridiculous. The note all by itself should have caused them to arrest the Ramseys. So the one thing that I want to know about the note is how were there 0 fingerprints on the note? Because Patsy comes down the staircase, right? She picks up the note and then she goes back upstairs and, oh, as in general, I see. She goes back upstairs, but she's holding the ransom note. So, and I would think with the legal pad being in the house, right? Their fingerprints had to be on them, unless they're just not stating that their fingerprints are on them because it is something like if you come into my house and you grab anything of mine, this cup, my phone, my water bottle, there's going to be, my fingerprints are going to be all over it. So maybe they excluded them off the bat because it was something that was taken out of the house. That's a tricky one. That is a tricky one. Real ransom note. We have your daughter. Don't call the cops. Wait by the phone for instructions. Not a 3-page rambling nonsense letter. I still say the cops know everything, but they can't prove it. John, when I say I 1000% believe you or agree with you, I absolutely do. I think that I think that's what the case is. I don't know. It's a hard one. It's a tricky one. Also, John, hi. It's good to see you. Welcome. And that's the problem, right? When you can't get an indictment from a grand jury and you can't charge them, what do you do with that? You can only do what you can do. I have to tell you, so I'm working with a company right now that's out of Australia, and she was talking to me about your videos, and she's like, so are you like, do you love true crime? And I'm like, so I want to learn, it's not just about true crime, right? It's about the bigger lessons. And I think that especially as the mother of a daughter, you can make better informed decisions when you have a lot more information. And the only way that you can have information is to get informed, and I told her, I said, what I find more fascinating than true crime itself is our judicial system in the United States, because it sucks. Like, it is awful. It's so funny because when I was little, when I was my daughter's age, my mom was like, what do you want to be? And I'm like, a lawyer. Like, I want to be a prosecutor. And now I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I think I could do like more behind my computer than I could in a court of law. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. You're right. It is what you can prove. What can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt? And that's the other thing. You have to, because if you even have the smallest sliver of a reasonable doubt, you cannot put somebody in jail. You can't. You can't just be like, nah, maybe. I do say that the 3-page rambling nonsense letter is, yeah, that's a fact. That is a fact. This real intruder leaves by the door, not the window. Beavis and Butthead made more plausible kidnappers. The ransom note was lengthy because Patsy had a point to prove. Now, here's the other thing about the ransom note. It's important to remember that Patsy also had a journalism degree. So that's what I believe that's what she majored in, was journalism. So she was a writer. And I found this to be lengthy. I found it to be dramatic. I found it to be, there were too many words. There were too many words. There were too many times that it was like, if you do this, then we hurt JonBenét. If you do this, then we also hurt JonBenét. If you do, it's like, we get the point. Don't do these things or we're going to, you know, X, Y, and Z. It was very odd. The intruder is supposed to have entered through the window and then just leave normally via the main door. Still don't think there was any intruder. Well, the thought is that the intruder came in through the basement window, hid in the house. Well, according to John Ramsey, right? According to, yes, very wordy. Thank you, John. Very wordy. But according to John Ramsey, not John in the chat, but according to John Ramsey, he would like you to think that the intruder came into the house and sat there while they were gone, and whatever happened to JonBenét happened to JonBenét, and then he then also left through the window. So the window was the only point of entry. They called the people over to contaminate the scene. He tore the tape off and moved JonBenét to contaminate the crime scene. She lays on top of JonBenét to contaminate the crime scene. My thoughts exactly. They call their friends to disturb the scene more than it already was. Boulder DA helped these clowns get away with murder. There were only 3 people in the house. So it was the one-armed man. So the thing about Patsy, I have to say, if you go through Linda Arndt's original police report, it's like a 16 or 17 page police report. It's a very interesting read. Patsy was distressed. Like, she was so distressed that day. And then she talks about how calm John was. And, you know, we have to remember that John Ramsey has already lost a child. You know, and when you go through something so traumatic like that, you know, maybe your body could go numb. Apparently JonBenét was found on top of an underfloor hidden safe. What do you mean? What do you mean? On top of an underfloor? I thought she was found on the wine cellar floor under a blanket. Like, she was just in the room on the floor. I mean, nobody would know because John was the one that found her and then he moved her. So it's not like the police could have any evidence to... As said the other day by YouTube, call me Chris. Interesting. I'll have to take a look at that because it was my understanding in the police report, right? But the police report, all we have is from John, because John was the one who found her in the basement. So he walked down to the wine cellar. He said that he flipped on the light, which him and Fleet White have contradictory stories. Stress makes me hyper focused. Yes. Me too. But they said that they flipped on the light and there she was underneath a blanket on the floor. So, yeah. And I get that way as well. Stress in any way. If I'm nervous, if I'm mad, if I'm whatever, I like rage clean. I rage move. Like, okay, if there's ever a crime scene, don't call me because I'm going to clean it. Like, I believe Burke did something to her and the parents tried to cover it up, inviting over those people to contaminate the scene and finding her with minutes. So I don't want to speculate on Burke being a strange guy. We don't know. Some people have alluded to the fact that, he might be on the spectrum. I have a son who's on the spectrum. I know a lot of people who are on the spectrum and they don't socially act in a way that we would expect them to. So that, I don't want to make speculations on that, but here's my question to you. Okay. If Burke did do something, okay, let's play with this theory a little bit. Two things. If Burke did do this, then I need to know which parent sexually assaulted her and why. Why go the extra mile to do something like that? Also, Patsy Ramsey calls, and if you're going with the theory of the enhanced 911 call, okay? Patsy Ramsey calls 911. She has the ransom letter in her hand. Okay, it's already been written. She already knows what it says. She calls them. And in the enhanced 911 phone call, which I got to tell you, I've listened to 1,000 times with headphones, without headphones, and I hear nothing. But some people will say that they hear Burke on the phone call and they hear the parents saying, what did you do? Which would insinuate that they didn't find out until that moment, right? And that's at 5:30 in the morning. So unless John is in on it and Patsy didn't know, but you hear, I guess, because you're supposed to hear that John said, we're not speaking to you. And then Patsy, what did you do? Help me, Jesus. That's alleged. I didn't hear it. She could have been hidden by John in the safe and then got her out. Here's the problem with that. When John found her, she was in rigor mortis. So the police arrived at about 6 a.m. and they decided not to go. Well, first of all, somebody went into that room. Somebody went in Linda Arndt's report. Somebody goes into that room, unlocks the lock, opens the door, can't find the light switch, closes the door, locks the latch. The police say that they can't get into that room and, either the door is jammed or the door is locked or, you have all of these things that are in the way. So they just decide to bypass the room as a whole. And then John finds her at 1 p.m., but because of rigor mortis and the smell of decay, that's when they had decided that she had passed away before 5:30. So when would he have been able, because when people are in rigor mortis, like you can't just go like moving their body around, right? Was Burke ruled out? So Burke was actually ruled out for everything. That's the problem that we have. Yes, first look, they don't see her. Okay, so when are you suggesting that they would have pulled her out? Because some people have brought up like a crawl space. So when would you suggest that they, like at what time? Because between 6 a.m. and 1 p.m., when John finds her, he is not in that room at all. So, and actually back to Lucia, he wants to be caught. Nobody actually follows the clues. Then tell me who it is. I need to know who it is. That's why we're here today. I need to know who it is. So here's the problem with the DNA, Lucia. This is the problem that I have, is it's an incomplete profile, right? And they have ruled out all of the Ramseys. So they have also ruled out your suspects like Michael Helgoth, the Santa Claus guy, I think his name was Bill, John Mark Carr, and, so that's, yeah. So technically, yes, Burke has been ruled out. When he said he did, he could have pulled her out. But Fleet was in the room with him. He said, there she is. He he flipped up the light and then she was under the blanket. Like Fleet saw that part. So it was Fleet and John It was Fleet and John in the basement. It was the butler in the study. So that's the hard part when it comes, because then now you have to look at time and you have to look at the state that the body was in and autopsy. All of these things go together, and it's very difficult because, and this is where I sit, right? I was so happy before I did this video, and I'm like, I think I know who it is. Cool. I'm going to go about my life. And then I made this video and I'm like, I hate this. You know, I'm like in a room with red string and I'm like, I don't know, because I feel like every point that you can make, there's another point that's able to actively contradict that. 3 things to note. I was living in Maine when this happened, and I recall the news back then. And when this first happened, John claimed he had given Patsy sleep medication when they arrived home from the Christmas party. This tracks with seeing her drugged up in the infamous interview. Well, why did he give her sleep medication? Did she take sleep medication? He said, and I do recall him saying that she took melatonin. And so that's something to be, the DNA was traced. Could it have been by a staff member that did their laundry? That's a great point. Well, I don't think they had any staff members that were male. I think they had a maid, right? I don't know how many maids they had, but I believe that their housekeepers or maids were female, and the DNA that was found underneath JonBenét's fingernails and inside of her underwear was foreign male DNA. John went looking on his own first. Linda Arndt sent John and Fleet together. If you read her report, both of them went downstairs together when she told them that. And also, this tracks with her drugged up on the infamous interview. I have to say, I've seen people go to their family's funerals and they take something to help them calm down. That part of the story to me was not shocking. Like if somebody, needs whatever it is they need and it's prescribed to them, then that's their thing. I take prescribed medications. Listen, girl, I need them. But what bothers me about that situation is multiple people looked at the condition that Patsy Ramsey was in and still said, yeah, we should put her on national news. I think this is a great idea. Why would you do that? And or the police girl was a part of a ritual or a cover-up. Yeah, but then you have to prove the police are in it. Listen, Clint, I'm here. I'm here with you, okay? And I'm willing to hear any theory that you have. I just need evidence. They consistently traveled. I mean, could someone invite a BF over while they were gone to help? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Having people inside or outside of the house. That's an interesting point. Or she was just found on the floor. Yeah, that's what Linda Arndt's police report was there. And because she was the only detective there at the time for this case, that's really the only word that we have to go by. And because she decided not to search herself, right? The only other word that we have to go by is John Ramsey and Fleet White, who were the only ones who saw her when she was in the basement. I am with you too. We are here together, Clint. We are here together. We just need some proof. Also, you guys, tell me if my mic is too loud. I don't have my in-ears in because I have the wrong cord and I can't hear them. So it's whatever. Hi, goddess of witches. What kind of witch are you? I need to know. I'm a Gemini. I don't know what kind of witch that makes me. It makes me a talkative one. Elizabeth, John's first daughter, who died in a car crash 5 years prior. I cannot talk now. I specifically recall the news back then that her car crash wasn't a rando incident. The car crash was also suspicious because the brake lines in her car had been cut, which caused the crash. Is that true? Sarasota. Oh, what's the weather like? When talking about the Titanic, John. I'm going to Google that real quick. Google. So Beth Ramsey, cause of death. They would say car accident, but the Denver Post. Let's see. The Boulder Police Chief Tom Colby said the autopsy report of Elizabeth Ramsey, who died in a car crash outside Chicago 5 years ago, is of no value to the JonBenét Ramsey murder. The 22-year-old was on her way to the airport when her boyfriend, Matthew Darrington, who lost control of his BMW while accelerating into traffic on wet Interstate 55. The car slid into the path of an oncoming bread delivery truck, killing both occupants. Okay. And that's the other thing too. Like I'm willing to listen to anybody. I just need a reasonable source or a reliable source. Proof is impossible. We can only speculate. Right. I go full Charlie Day on that subject. You know what? Listen, when I get big enough, John, I'm going to have an audio only podcast. I'm going to start adding that in, and you can tell me all about the Titanic. We'll have it. I'll have you on as a guest. It's in the 60s right now. Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't know anything about this, but there was a first 911 call made from the home around 2 or 2:30 a.m. before the 911 call made by Patsy claiming her daughter had been kidnapped. Why wouldn't that have been in the report? Where you could hear a child in the background shout, "Hang up the phone." Back then, it was believed to be Burke. The news in Portland, Maine had played that call over and over. And no one talks about it, just saying, well, where is the phone call? And where is that? I would like to know where that... I need to know where that phone call is. 6 a.m. where I am. Oh, it's 6 where I was like, wait, it's 6 a.m.? Yeah, I need to know where that phone call is. Also, I have read a ton of reports. I've never seen anything about the first 911 call. In addition, the police found and questioned some of the friends, sororities girl of the oldest child, Elizabeth, who was killed in a car accident because there were rumors or allegations. Married to his first wife. Boyfriend were driving. The car had just been in the shop when they crashed. And from all of that, I remember thinking to myself, yeah, this is a lot. This is a lot. Could tell you who it is right now, but he wants to be famous. That's a problem. What do we do? Yeah, you tell the police. Like, if you know who it is, you tell the police. So I've heard similar things and had the same thoughts. What are the chances of losing 2 children regardless? Yeah. So here's the thing about the assault, and this is what I'll say about it. I don't want to speculate on any of that because there's just too many ways that you can go. His children have actively said that he's never been an abusive father of any kind. There are also, parents who single out kids. But until something is definitive, I don't think it's fair that we speculate on what did or didn't happen to those girls. I think that we only go on the evidence that we know. I think that's the only fair thing that we can do. I will not stop. The evidence the family was involved is overwhelming. Kindly ignore me, my opinion, and go in your own way. Thank you. They had him in custody already. Do you think it was John Mark Carr? Because I got to tell you that whole thing. I find it sickening and gross, the parents who enroll their kids in adult stuff like pageants. So here's the thing about it, right? Patsy was a pageant queen. So as the mother of a daughter, I understand why she did it. I understand why JonBenét would want to be in pageantry, right? Like, I did hair and makeup. My daughter wants to do hair and makeup. My mom played softball. I wanted to play softball. Like, kids will do things to find, bonding experiences with their parents, and they do things together. It's not uncommon that a child will do the same thing that their parent does. And pageantry was just something that Patsy did. Now, is it something that I would personally do with my daughter? No. Even if she wanted to, no. But there are other sports or other activities that I find, that I would put my daughter in because she loves them, but that I find have, inappropriate attire. I don't know. Pageantry is not something that I would put my children in. But I understand why Patsy would do that. What I really hated about it at the time was that the media didn't have a problem with pageantry as a whole. They had a problem with only Patsy and John doing this with JonBenét. And why we have something like pageantry for little babies, little kids, I'm not sure. I don't. It's not a choice that I would make. We'll say that. The car crash could be a secret. Service. Take control of the car's brakes remotely and then crash the oncoming truck. Okay, but then it's 1996. You think they had that kind of technology then? The clue that everyone missed. The body was found in the storage room, wine cellar that had. Oh wow! Oh boy. Okay, we're gonna be reading for a second. So. The body was found in the storage room wine cellar that had the John Ramsey DIY swivel latch at the top of the door, a simple piece of wood that swivels on a nail or screw. The police tried to open that door but claimed it was locked. If there was an intruder, wouldn't they also not gain access to the room thinking it was locked? So here's the thing about that. Went to keep her from talking and they covered it up this way. So you know what's funny? And not funny, but you know what I've thought about Lucia is I've actually thought, or is it Lucia? Lucia or Lucia? I don't want to get it wrong, but they have put on her tombstone 1225. And I've often thought, because there is no real crime scene, right? What if something did happen outside of the house and then they brought her home? Right? Like what? I don't know. And then because they had a huge falling out with the Whites, with Fleet White and Priscilla White. So, but here's the thing about this. The police tried to open the door, but claimed it was locked. There was an intruder and they would. So it's not that they would not gain access to the room. Lucia. Okay. If they came in, if there truly was an intruder who came in through the window, they wouldn't have been able to gain access to the house, which means they wouldn't have been able to hide in the house. They wouldn't have been able to go upstairs to JonBenét's room and grab her if that latch was over the door at the time. But what I want to know is what I believe in Linda Arndt's report was that she had stated somebody had searched the house, including that room, and they didn't see anything. However, the police stated that they were not able to get into that room at all. It was said to be used on night. Oh God, Princess Diana is another one. That's another one I want to know. Fleet. I have so many questions. When I die, I have so many questions. I'm gonna be like, listen, I have a list. I need to know these 5 things. Okay. Fleet White unlatched the door and looked inside around 6:30 a.m. See? And nobody was seen, but 7 hours later, the door was still latched. But this time, John Ramsey discovers JonBenét's body. Number 2, I have never heard any mention of the police searching the crawl space or anyone else. I believe the body could have been there originally, then moved. So, Clint, this would go to your theory. In their haste, the murderer must have moved the body to that locked, latched room. And it was, I cannot read. Oh my God, my eyes are so bad. What does this say? Oh boy, where am I? And it was dropped, tossed, and accidentally or on purpose bashed against the cement or wall floor. The head injury was not noticed prior to the autopsy. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Prior to the autopsy. Okay. Upon external examination of the body, no scalp trauma was observed. Sure. There was very little blood. But that goes against the theory. So the thing about the autopsy is they actually say that they don't know which came first, right? Was it the strangulation or was it the head trauma? And, you know, there's theories that could go to both, right? They were, maybe she had hit her head. Maybe they thought she was dead. And then whoever tried to set it up, and then she woke back up. And then they were like, we got to go. And, you know, finished the job. I don't know. I don't know. There was very little blood. Only a 7 to 8 cc was noticed only after the interior of the scalp was cc. It was like an 8-inch. It was huge. The whole thing was huge. And the skull actually had like caved in on itself. The coroner never said specifically the head wound was first. Right? I said that in my video. They never knew which one came first, which was the strangulation or the blunt force trauma. The fact that there was only 7 or 8 cc's of blood from the, craniocerebral trauma indicates that this could have been a post-mortem injury. Sure. So it could indicate that, I guess. But why wouldn't the coroner then say that? The coroner actively says in their autopsy report that they cannot give you a cause of death. They do not have an active cause of death because they don't know which one came first. Also, I have to tell you, the theory about Patsy in the bathroom, where did the blanket come from that she was wrapped in? That I don't know. That's an interesting... You know what? Let's Google that. Google. Blanket. My search history is going to be something. I think it was a throw blanket. The white blanket. Here's Reddit. So it only just says it was a white blanket. All right, let's go. Who said you're right? You're not right, twin. What? What? What do you mean? This is good. Not dramatic like other. Yeah, I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's already dramatic enough. Like, I don't need it to be salacious. I hate that. You don't know who I am. Me either. I'm still trying to find myself. Dylan. I still don't know the facts about the case. Some facts. Okay. The white blanket seemed to assume that it had been on JBR's bed and somehow ended up in the basement. So it was her blanket, I guess. And don't call me a troll. I'm being for real. Like, who actually are you? My name is Bacon Bears, and this is a channel called That's My Opinion, where we just talk about cool stuff. That's who I actually am. Bacon Bears. That's my government name. 2 Z's. Don't wear it out. Okay, so let's see. Read the autopsy report. It clearly states in these exact words. Correlation. Cause of death of the 6-year-old. Yeah, okay. associated with, this is not poetry class. You would be correct. We're talking about murder, actually. So, welcome. I don't know. So I don't understand the point that they're trying to make. So they're trying to make the point that Shakespeare. So they make a point that the head trauma comes after the strangulation. But then right here it says asphyxia by strangulation associated with. All right. You know what? Hold on. Just to dispute this, I am going to Google JonBenét's autopsy. You know what? JonBenét cause of death. That's what we're going to, and we're going to get to her autopsy report. Let me find the autopsy. I really need to save these files. I never do. And if I'm going to start doing lives, I need to. The coroner who performed JonBenét's autopsy said the child died from suffocation in conjunction with forcible trauma to her skull. JonBenét had a 8.5-inch skull fracture. So, we don't know which one came first. Lucia, I don't know. That's a great question. She was found fully clothed. She had a shirt on, she had underwear on, and she had long johns on. The trauma was traumatic. You would be right. Trauma is traumatic. Number 3, only a resident of the house or those familiar with the floor plan would know about the crawl space and the simple trick of how to unlatch the storage room wine cellar door. John Ramsey or Fleet White case solved. But the problem is that you have the two of them who go down to the room together. They find her. She's on the floor. The police are there at 6 a.m. I need to know what time everybody thinks that they pulled her out of this crawl space or, moved her. And also they're trying to move somebody. You have to remember, she is in full rigor mortis at this time. You can't just be tossing around people who are like that. By means of what happened. When what happened was a stage for something bigger he had in mind. Well, who was that then? I like your channel. Keep it up. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well then, listen. Rosinaldo, you have to tell me who SBTC is. If John or Patsy would have been handcuffed and perp walked to the police station and interviewed with hardball questions on the day this crime would have been solved within the week. If the police found our dead daughter in the basement, we would be #1 suspects. The crimes will finally be solved when someone in the Ramsey has a deathbed confession. I do have to say, these guys were kind of treated like the Menendez brothers, right? They were treated as victims, and they were not, they were brought in right away, but not, I don't think they should have been. I think they are probably politically connected. I think they had a lot of money. I think that, the police didn't want to, I think the police should have done this differently. While I sit here and read comments on my YouTube channel in my sweatpants, I have so many thoughts. I can judge all I want, but I am not a police officer. If an intruder, they sure relied on finding everything at the house: pen, paper, paintbrush, garrote, blanket. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? If it is an intruder, it's somebody they know. It's somebody who knows the Ramseys personally. This was personal. Whoever did it has been to the home enough times. Yeah, and actually that's one of the things That's one of the things that one of the housekeepers had said immediately, was that this wasn't somebody from the outside because of the layout of the house and how confusing it was. Those letters were Patsy's old college motto. What do you mean? Just found your channel. It's awesome. The cop, Steve Thomas, is brown ice cream. Thank you, Mountain. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was an interesting choice, to write a book about this crime and go on live TV and argue with Patsy Ramsey. Also, I have to tell you, the Patsy Ramsey theory that he thinks about her, that she had like shoved her in the bathroom or like hit her head against something, where the skull fracture is, if it was on the side or on the back, like maybe you could convince me of that, but it's like directly on the top of her head. So I don't believe that theory at all. They had a family dog? Shut up. Did they have a family dog? I have yet to read that. Did the Ramseys have a dog? No, they did not. Wait. What? No, the Ramseys did not have a dog, but Gordon Ramsay does have a dog. It's an odd. The Ramseys lived in Boulder, Colorado, and had 2 children, Burke and JonBenét. The family attempted to secure their home with heavy doors and locks, but a burglar broke into their basement door during a break-in. JonBenét Ramsey had a dog, but it basically lived at the Barnhills. So this is on Reddit. This is on Reddit. If I tell you you're going to make him famous, I won't give him the satisfaction, because he's free walking among us. That child was her pride. I don't think she did it. The dog was at the Barnhills the night of the murder. So that's where the dog was, whoever was asking about the dog. Rosinaldo. Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard about the dog. But I guess if the dog isn't there, then that would make sense, right? The child was her pride. I don't think she did it. Yeah. And the way that she was acting the day of, I got to be honest with you, I don't think she did either. Now, the note's a different story. Something's up with that note. I don't ever remember the lock being mentioned, but I wonder why the police didn't search that room. I have wondered about the crawl space in the wine cellar. Okay. Let's go down to the next. These comments are great. Yes, John. So that's the thing, right? So Steve Thomas is a detective who wrote a book, and he goes on CNN, or no, I'm sorry. He goes on Larry King Live, and he has an altercation with the Ramseys. I made my anxiety spike, girl. I was like, oh, they were fighting, because Steve Thomas comes out and he's like, listen, I know that you killed your daughter. And she's like, okay, prove it. What do you think? And he's like, I think that she wet the bed, you got mad, and you bashed her head somewhere like in the bathroom. And it's like, you're a detective. How if somebody, what did she flip her upside down and slam her? What did she like pile drive her? Patsy Ramsey's not in the WWE. But now could the blunt force trauma have come from something like a flashlight or a golf club or a baseball bat? If, JonBenét is oh my God. Mountain, thank you. I just got my first super chat. Thank you. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anyone that did the tubes at Chuck E. Cheese could find their way around it. It was something. Or could her head have been down and shoved? Was there any neck compression? That's a good question. I don't think there was. So you told me about the dog. You didn't ask. Okay. Well, I needed to ask myself. Hype. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the thing is, right, like, 2 theories. if the head wound did come first, right? If the head wound did come first, then wait, how do I you would believe that she was hit over the top of the head, right? But if the head wound technically came second, it's still on the top of the head, but she would have been like suffocating at the time. The Netflix documentary was clearly leaning towards the parents' innocence and made John seem sympathetic. It's such a tough case because so much evidence was either mishandled or destroyed. And Chris, John, did you just become a member? John! Thank you. Welcome to Curious Minds. You get perks. And Chris, I have to tell you, that's a great point. And the reason that this Netflix documentary had bothered me was because there were so many things left out. And there are so many questions like around the pineapple and around Burke. And why not answer those questions? Why not, if you truly are innocent, right? That was like when I watched the Scott Peterson documentary on Peacock. I don't understand. If you want to prove your innocence, yay, John, thank you. If you want to prove your innocence, then you have to you have to give me all the evidence. Wasn't John part of making that documentary? He was. And he's actually, they're going to be on 2020 tonight. And I just don't know if I can watch it. I want to hear everything. I'm not saying the dad did it, but I never see him cry. Seems like a person that's not affectionate. So the thing about the dad is you have to remember that he's already lost. So let me tell you a little story about myself. Okay. I have a son who is on the spectrum, and we have had 2 incidences where he has, because my son is an elopement risk, and he has been lost twice, and we have been lucky enough to find him. And I also had a very traumatic experience where my daughter lost the full function of her eye, and they were telling us that they were looking for some very severe things, and last year was maybe the worst year of my life. So in all of those cases, I go very cold and I go very numb. And then my body has a physical reaction much later. So my daughter was actually hospitalized on a Monday, and I go straight business. I'm like, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. By Thursday, when I felt myself start to like release and have a break, I actually started vomiting and crying. And the 2 times that my son was lost by other people and they had ended up finding him, the same thing. We got my son back, and I just, held him, and I was like, okay, and went numb. And then both times in the middle of the night, I had like just visceral reactions and ended up puking. So for somebody to not cry or to show emotion in a time of crisis, I also don't. So that doesn't bother me. The other thing is, this is a man who has already lost a daughter. So that's something that, thank you, Lucia. That's something that's already, and your body sometimes can protect you from those things. Sometimes you just go numb and you don't even realize that it's happening. Another good thing seen by a YouTuber called me Chris. The note by Patsy, both Patsy's other handwriting and the note both used had types of lowercase a's. The loops were varied. In all of the A's? I don't know who John Stossel is. Who's John Stossel? You guys, thanks for the support on this. This is my first live, and I am finding this to be very successful. You guys are great. I am so excited. The only guy I can think of is Walter. No, not Walter. Who's Chandler's stepdad? What's his name? Bill Hader. Bill Hader does him. I forgot his name. Anyways. Okay, so here's the theory. Burke killed her with the flashlight. Patsy wrote the ransom note, and the father strangled her with the garrote. Okay. If that is true, why would Patsy be questioning him on the phone call, on the 911 phone call, if the voice enhancements are true? And who assaulted her? And why? Why go the extra length to do that? I get that. I don't do the vomiting thing after. Yeah, I don't know. My body's just like, danger. Bleh. Like, I don't know. Oh, Keith Morrison. Yes, thank you. That's right. I was thinking Walter Cronkite, but that was wrong. Lucia, thank you. You guys are amazing. Oh, my God. How do I pin these little super chats? How can I pin these? I can put you in timeout. I don't know how to work the internet. Yes, Keith Morrison too. Yeah, I like him. Thank you so much, Lucy. I appreciate it. Let's see. Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters. Yeah. Hello. So I actually worked. Oh, I'm sorry. So I actually watched some other documentary or interview and mentioned how it was likely that JonBenét was killed by asphyxiation over the cracked skull, even though both are deadly. Yes. So that's the other thing. Is it possible? Here's the theory. Is it possible that the head trauma was an accident? Okay. And because she got hit in the head, she got knocked out. Now this goes to my parents' theory, right? Like if the Ramseys are covering it up, they do everything that they do. She wakes up in the middle of it because the blow to the head was not fatal. And then it's like, oh shit. She's able to articulate what happened in that moment. So then what? I was feeling exposed. I don't know why you didn't have that. That doesn't make sense to me. You should have had that. Let's see. The unknown DNA from the trauma. Yes, there is. Now, so here's the other problem. What they need to do is they need to find out if the DNA from the underwear is the same as her fingernails. They still don't know that yet. So the thing about that is, though, DNA can live up to 5 days. Could the DNA under her fingernails be from a previous experience within the 5 days before this actually happened? She's playing with somebody or, Burke, or if they wrestle or get into a fight or whatever. I would have, just from giving my kids a bath, I would have their DNA underneath my fingernails. And also, just to let you guys know, I got to go in about 20 minutes because I got to do mom stuff. People react to trauma in different ways. Fight or flight. Losing his first daughter would have made him numb, in my opinion. The thing that rules out the brother is the not, unless he was a Boy Scout. He was a Boy Scout. So that's the other thing. He was in the Boy Scouts. But they also find a pubic or an auxiliary, I can't say this word. I always say auxiliary, but it's axillary hair, which is actually found in the armpits, and that's found after puberty. So here's another thought. Could it have been somebody who was in the Boy Scouts with Burke who was actually after puberty? Or maybe one of JonBenét's friends' older brothers, something like that. I think I have it on the other channel. Oh, yeah, that's right. See, that's exactly where my head went when I came across it. Also, you're doing such an amazing job with your channel. Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate that. I'm really trying hard. I really appreciate it so much. And the love and the reception that I've been getting lately is, you know what my husband said? This has always been my dream to be able to do this. And when it started popping off and things started happening, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And he's like, you know what? He's like, you're like when a dog finally catches the car and you're like, what do I do now? I'm like, that's exactly what this is. I don't know. He's like, just calm down, keep making videos. Also, did somebody asked me about Madeline McCann? Yeah. I think somebody asked me to talk about that and I missed it. I will write that down because that has been requested more than once. I have to be careful. I have to tell you guys, I know that any bacon time is great, no matter how long or short. Thank you. I have to tell you that I want to also add maybe some stuff that isn't like murder, true crime in here. I have to be careful. I have kids, and I know that the autopsy part in my video was long, and I know that there wasn't a lot of B-roll, and it was just me talking and staring at the screen. But when I was looking at pictures and I saw the picture of the gold band on the hand or the bracelet, I have a 5-year-old daughter. And to see that tiny hand, I will never put autopsy pictures or evidence pictures that have a child in them on my channel. I cannot do it. When I saw her little hands, I saw the hands of my daughter, and I couldn't unsee it, and that's just not something that I was willing to put on my channel. So I also appreciate you guys going through that long section with me, and it being a sensitive topic. The other thing is I'm working on my Brian Koberger script right now, and I watched this thing on ABC about remembering the victims and listening to the parents talk about their children, sobbing. I was like, oh my God, like I'm just writing down all the great things that these kids were doing, and it was just so sad. How do you become a member? That's a great question. I don't know. I just put that up. So yeah. I think you just, one of these buttons down here. Oh, I can engage with my audience. Oh, I can start a poll. Answer viewer questions live. Say something. Oh, what's that? I don't know what that is. Look at me pressing buttons. Watch, I just exit out of the chat. Hair transfer so easily. We all have microscopic hairs in our home from people that have never even entered our home. That's a great point. That is a great point. Kind of like the Joker. Chris Watts is becoming a popular case again, also with the possible Nicole Kessinger involvement. I have to tell you, the investigation with her, so irritating. So wildly irritating. The fact that she was made a preferential, like not suspect, but she got preferential treatment right off the bat. Why? Also, with someone like Nicole Kessinger, I mean, and I don't know if the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, is equipped for this, but with someone like Nicole Kessinger, who thinks that she's like witty and whatever, I would have sent a female detective in there immediately. I wish, I remember when my kids were, oh my God, I just had this conversation the other day because my daughter was like, can we get another baby? And I'm like, no, this house is clear. Like, absolutely not. We got you a dog, so there's that. But also, I don't want like a new baby. I don't want to meet a new baby. I want my old babies to be old babies. We make connections to our own lives. Yeah. Oh, there's a join button at the top of the page. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I'm so excited. Now you guys get like extra perks, cool stuff. Let's see. All right. JonBenét and my daughter are the same age. This case has been on my mind and constantly and heartbreaking. Yeah, it's sad. I don't understand. I don't care for that case. He did it, case closed, and she was not charged. That's the end of it. Yeah, I understand that. I think personally she had more to do with it, which is my issue with it. Looking forward to grandkids. Yeah, I got a long way to go for that. I'm actually someone who finds that Linda aren't very believable. I think the parents covered this whole thing up. I don't believe it was an intruder at all. They're just so fishy about the whole thing. Burke is kind of suspicious too, not gonna lie. Children are capable of doing horrible things, violent things, either by accident or on purpose. Great video. I really enjoyed it. So the thing about Mountain, thank you. There's a great episode of Law and Order Criminal Intent titled Masquerade based off of the John. Oh, I'll have to watch that. I do love, my favorite is Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Yeah, that's my favorite. Probably watching that too young as well. I actually had to stop watching that. So when I first had my son and I was home with him, that's all I watched. And then I'm like, I cannot watch this anymore. Mountain, thank you so much for the super chats. You are so nice. I just noticed the purple cursor. What? There's a purple cursor? Oh yeah, on my thing. I had to change it. I have to change all my stuff because I'm like super blind. If she influenced or encouraged him to do it, she deserves justice. Deleted messages after 2 hours of the phone call. She can't really recalls very... Yeah, I agree with that. 45, 25, and 23. Both already married? Oh, congratulations. I remember watching the Linda Arndt interview on ABC, and I was just so infuriated by her words. Why on God's green earth is she talking about how many bullets are in her possession with her gun? That was a weird one. That was a very weird one. As I watched that whole thing, I'm like, what is happening? Why is this happening? No, I think he's talking about my purple cursor that you could see. Let us see. What's the next one? The doctor on Geraldo. Oh my God. Okay, so if you guys watched the Netflix documentary and there is this doctor that is on Geraldo and they show it in this new documentary, and she says some of the most heinous, disgusting things about JonBenét Ramsey, a 6-year-old little baby. And as a professional, I would have loved to reach through the screen and punch this woman in the face. I thought it was unbelievable. Did I tell you that I made a pair of pants out of spiderweb silk? They're really great, except the fly keeps getting... Jesus Christ. I didn't care for the Stabler spinoff. I never watched that. I never watched the spinoff. But I watched it. I like Mariska Hargitay. While the Ramsey's house was large and confusing, I did notice something when I was looking at the floor plans. Right by the spiral staircase where Patsy found the ransom note is the garage. JonBenét's room was at the top of the spiral staircase. So if someone knew that, they could have gone through the garage, up the spiral stairs, grab JonBenét, go back down the stairs and out the garage. No one would know. Burke's room was at the opposite end of the house. John and Patsy's was at the opposite end of the house and on a different level. They wouldn't have noticed anything unusual. Exactly. Which brings me, the doctor comment made me stick to my stomach. Right. When she was talking about the saxophone, me and my one of my best girlfriends who watches these documentaries with me, and we like bounce ideas off of each other back and forth. We were talking about that, and it was like, how do you watch that footage and even come to that conclusion? I don't understand at all. So about this, here's the question, and this is where the ransom note comes into play, right? When does the ransom note get written? That's what I need to know, is when the ransom note gets written. Because if it gets written before they get home, because they have the time, you take JonBenét and you leave and you do whatever at a second location. Okay? If you do what you do inside of the house, why, and something, either it evolves that way and she ends up passing away, or whatever the case is, why write the note at all? The ransom note in itself doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to have a ransom note and a death in the same crime scene. It doesn't. If somebody's true intention was to come in and take JonBenét, they would have taken her out of the house. Not surprising, they claimed the rope and tape weren't found in the house. That house was a maze of all kinds of rooms and was a mess, especially the basement. I cannot imagine the police searched every nook and cranny of the house for a little bit of rope or tape. Yeah, they didn't do much, I have to say. You believe it's after. But, okay. But so are you going with the intruder theory or are you going with the family theory? Because that depends, that changes things. Well, I'm going to move my camera a little bit because this is an odd placement. I had like a really cute overlay and then I trashed it. Because that changes the changes to make it confusing. Do you believe it was an intruder or do you believe it was the family? We listen and we don't judge in the chat. We listen and we don't judge. Okay. So if somebody has a different opinion from you, we are having nice conversations about it. Just so you know, people get really angry about this. I'll tell you. Who's Glenn Myers? Then wouldn't that mean the ransom note would have been written before they realized they couldn't get JonBenét out of the house? You mean out of the house alive? I'm going to look into Glenn Myers. Let's look at what am I missing? Who's Glenn Myers? Let's learn something. JonBenét Ramsey case. Oh, murder suspect Glenn Myers. Let us see. Let's read more about this. Court documents obtained by the Inquirer. Glenn Meyer lived across the road from the Ramsey house. He was a boarder in the basement of the house. Let's see. John and Patsy were extremely friendly. They didn't even know the existence of Glenn Meyer until he turned up unannounced at their party the night of December 23rd. He essentially gate crashed the party, but for what reason, we will never know. Interesting. Very interesting. Let's see. I believe it was someone the parents knew. Yeah. I mean, if it's not the parents, it's definitely someone who knew them. Exactly. Explore every... Fam theory. Do you think they stashed her in the crawl space, wanting to go with the abduction theory and realize the cops were skeptical, so they moved her? So again, that comes back to the rigor mortis and the state that her body was in. When did they move her? Because allegedly, okay, according to Linda Arndt's report, the detectives couldn't get into the wine cellar, but Fleet White could. So that was at 6 a.m. And she was pretty much with John Ramsey all day. He would disappear here and there, but never went downstairs. It's never like she didn't have eyes on him when he went downstairs. So between 6 a.m. and 1 p.m., how does John move the body? A body in rigor mortis without anybody noticing. Judges silently. We listen and we judge silently. Yes, because it was thought that they were going to stuff her in a briefcase and then realized maybe they couldn't get her out of the house. So that's why the suitcase would be below the window. Interesting. Interesting theory. But how do you keep her quiet? Too. I mean, how do you subdue her? Well, I guess a tape over her mouth, right? And that's the thing with the house being such a maze. You know, I'm just speculating, but maybe they came home, they were drinking, they went to bed. I don't know. And maybe there was a 911 call that night at the party, and the person who answered wouldn't let them in. So there actually was wait, at what party? Because there actually was a 911 call at the Ramsey party when they were doing the gingerbread houses, which was either the 23rd or the 24th. And in Patsy Ramsey's book, she claims that it was Fleet White who called them. The briefcase was used as a stool to get out of the window, apparently. Yes. Yes, it was. And that's the thing. If it truly is an intruder theory, right, and the person came in, there's debris on top of that suitcase. So if they came in and left a partial footprint and then they moved on to the bedroom or whatever to try to get JonBenét and then came back, I guess if they would have stepped on the suitcase, they would have disrupted that debris. When they called 911 before. They did call 911 before. Yes, there was a 911 call made at 6:47 p.m. And allegedly, Patsy Ramsey in her book says that Fleet White was calling to get medication for his mother who was in a hospital, and she was calling Aspen, Colorado. Well, Aspen, Colorado is a 9, but I believe the area code is like 970, and somehow he got 911. And some of the theories are, what if they called to see what the time was, like how fast police could get there when they were dispatched. I learned to judge silently from my cat. When her dad found her, how long did the medical examiner say So you'll find different reports. I found 2 reports. One said that they could only determine time of death between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And then you'll find another report, which is the autopsy report, I believe, that says because of the pineapple, the undigested pineapple that was in her stomach, that is about 2 hours before her time of death. So that she would have eaten that between 11 and 12, and she would have died at about 1 o'clock, I think is the estimated time, 1 a.m. Moved to the basement. Then John's second search is when he finds her. Yeah. But why wouldn't Fleet see? And that's the thing. Why wouldn't Fleet see her when he checked the basement the first time? I guess he said he couldn't find the light switch, right? What about the boatman who claimed J. Andrew Ramsey attempted to hire a hit for John Bentley? For someone who was hit with JB in it. What? Let's try that. The boatman. Boatman. JonBenét Ramsey case. Do. Where are you I wish you guys could send me links. Or Fleet was in on it, so that's another thing. That's another, with there's a lot of speculation around different things that these guys are like into or whatever. Why was there one policewoman? Only the police were there first, i.e. Wyan on her own. So what they said was that when 911 was called, 2 police officers were dispatched, and they were dispatched to the house within minutes. And Detective Linda Arndt was home, and she got a phone call that she had to go because this was a ransom situation, and she had to go make all of that, go smoothly. So she arrived to the house at about 8:10, and they said, I believe that they were short staffed that day. Yeah. But why? There's a lot of whys. Why was she the only detective there? Why didn't the police immediately escort everyone out of the house? Why are they letting anybody move inside of the house? Why are people not there? I don't know. There's so many questions. So many questions. Safe in the floor. How do you know there was a safe in the floor? Can you prove that to me? A little child up that late. they're up and playing, right? Like if her and Burke are up playing with the toys. I don't know, not my kids. My daughter will come into the bed and she'll be like, Mom, I'm ready to go to bed. Because sometimes I go to bed because she'll be up with my husband. She'll be like, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, okay. Your answer is in the note. You keep telling me SBTC, but I don't know who SBCTC is. Although you will find some people who tell you it's save Burke through Christianity. But honestly, they could find anything with that stuff. Ooh, I got a 1-minute warning. All right, you guys. Why didn't they interview the family until weeks later? Yeah, that's a huge question. Why? Why? Rosinaldo, I'm going to look into a lot of this stuff. Actually, this is great. If you want to message me some of this stuff, I am going to put together a theories video. So this would be great. There's my alarm. You guys, this could not have been a better, what's the word? Like first live stream. I am so happy and so excited. And if you guys want, I would love to come back every week. This has been amazing. I have to go be a parent now. I will see you guys. Bye.